Hi, Megan here with Teach Ag 101. Tragedy has struck my computer because I have looked all over and I cannot find my scope and sequence from last year. And it was so good because I wrote down every single detail. I wrote down like what was short. I worked at keeping a good set of notes this time, and so I have been upset for the last 2 days because I can't find my scope and sequence, and I finally just I've just accepted the fact that I have to start over. So, while I'm starting over on scope and sequence, I thought I would share with you some quick tips on how to get yours done in less than 15 minutes. A lot of times I will avoid or procrastinate doing a scope and sequence because I just make it into this bigger project than it actually is in my head, and I want it to be perfect. Straight up, it's never going to be perfect. The idea here is to just get something down on paper and then we can adjust from there. So step one is to grab your school and your district calendar and go ahead and block out any dates that are spring break, fall break. If you have a semester change, go ahead and write those things in also. And then a second step, I go ahead and block in or mark in any national FFA or state FFA dates that we need to be aware of. Okay, step two is to figure out how many units you're teaching and how many days you have to teach those units. So, for example, I have an Ag Science 1 class for freshmen. I only get them for 2 trimesters. I have 13 units to teach and there are 129 days to teach them in. So, if I divide 129 days divided by 13 units, I have 9.9 days per unit. Now, this part is critical, especially for those of us who want to make sure everything is perfect. Okay, this is not about perfect, this is about getting stuff on paper right now. So, step number 3 is to quickly write down your units in order on your calendar in whatever increment you found out in step 2. So, example for me, I had a 10-day unit for my Ag Science class, so I'd very quickly write down day 1 through 10, FFA unit, the second unit is SAEs, and so on and so forth. This should not take you very long. Don't worry, we're going to come back to this in a minute, okay? Okay, so for those of you who you just can't handle writing any more down and you feel like you've planned enough, then that's great. You just follow your sequence. If you need a little bit more detail and you're not quite ready to let this go yet, then follow me to step 4. Step number 4 is to go ahead and double check your timing. So does the unit make sense for the time of year that it's set out for right now? So for example, in my Ag Science 1 class, we have a plant science unit. My greenhouse will not stay cool enough during the summertime, and it gets super, super cold in about January. So it doesn't make much sense for my plant science class to be planting plants when the greenhouse is dying of heat right now. So I hold that one back until later in the fall, like October, November, when our greenhouse can keep back up again. Another thing to think about with timing is think about your FFA events that are going to be happening throughout the year and try to coincide your FFA calendar with your classroom calendar and get them meshing together. Example of that, in October is our first set of competitions. We have agronomy, range, and soils that all come up together. So it makes more sense for me to throw like an agronomy or a range event together during the beginning of the school year so that my kids are ready for the contest before they go. So again, back to your 3-circle model, we're hitting not only just the FFA side, but we're hitting our classroom, hitting them both together at the same time. Before you set your roadmap into stone, check one more time to see which units are the most important units for your class. So example again, my Ag Science 1 class, this is like their first intro to FFA. So instead of having a 10-day unit, I make that probably almost a 20-day unit in my class. We go really deep into like basic FFA, but I also spend a lot more time on like some CDE training and then also getting them more geared up for public speaking, like getting them warmed up to talking in front of people. This is also where I'm teaching them like how I expect them to be in my class and also trying to build a community in our classroom too. So we slow down a little bit on that first unit, I make that unit bigger, and then obviously if I make one unit bigger, then I've got to pick out which units are going to be a little bit smaller from there. In that Ag 1 class, I also have an animal science section. I've chosen to make that a little bit shorter just because I know that a lot of my kids are gonna move up to the animal science class next year. So I can expand and talk to them for almost the whole year about animal science next year. My job right now with the freshman class is to catch their attention and to catch their interest as many ways as I possibly can. In the animal science class, though, I'm going to kind of swap my unit. So my FFA unit is a lot shorter because A, they've already had the class and learned like the basic foundation of FFA. But B, they're not taking my class just to be FFA. They want to learn the animal science part. So we're going to expand out on the animal science units and shorten up the FFA unit in that class. So look at your course and decide what parts are the most important parts. And if worse comes to worse and you had to cut a unit out for time, which one would it be? And tuck that one to the end. If you get to it, great. And if not, at least you've got the most critical parts put together for your roadmap. Alright, so quick recap. Number 1 is to grab your calendar. Make sure you have all your school, your district, and your FFA dates on your calendar before you start your scope. Number 2 is to figure out how many units you have to teach and how many days you have to teach it in. Number 3 is to put those all on your calendar in sequential order. Just get them on paper. Don't spend a lot of time here yet. Number 4, if you want to do some fine tuning, is to check and see where specific units fit in your calendar best. So if you think about seasonal items or items that fit better with your FFA schedule, where should you put those ideally? And then number 5 is to make sure that you're getting your most important units into your curriculum and that they are getting the time that they deserve. I hope this helps you to get your scope done. Now I gotta go back to work and get mine done again. Talk to you next time. Bye. Guys, I thought I recorded and I wasn't recording anything at all, so we gotta do this again. Okay, anywho, so I forgot what number I'm on.